Mr., usually written in its abbreviated form Mr.or Mr, is a commonly used English honorific for men under the rank of knighthood. The title derived from earlier forms of master, as the equivalent female titles Mrs., Miss, and Ms, all derived from earlier forms of mistress. Master is sometimes still used as an honorific for boys and young men, but its use is increasingly uncommon. The modern plural form is Misters, although its usual formal abbreviation Messrs derives from use of the French title Messieurs in the 18th century. Messieurs is the plural of Monsieur, formed by declining both of its constituent parts separately. Historic etiquette. Historically, Mr., like Sir, my lord, was applied only to those above one's own status in the peerage. This understanding is now obsolete, as it was gradually expanded as a mark of respect to those of equal status and then to all gentlemen. It is now used indiscriminately. In past centuries, Mr. was used with a first name to distinguish among family members who might otherwise be confused in conversation. Mr. would be the eldest present. Younger brothers or cousins were then referred to as Mr. Richard Doe and Mr. William Doe, and so on. Such usage survived longer in family-owned business or when domestic workers were referring to adult male family members with the same surname. Mr. Robert and Mr. Richard will be out this evening, but Mr. Edward is dining in. But such usage today is rare in American culture, but still quite common in others as a sign of respect when first names are being used. The last name is not known, or where English is not the mother tongue. Professional titles. Mr. is sometimes combined with certain titles. The feminine equivalent is Madam. All of these except Mr. Justice are used in direct address and without the name. The title Mr. Justice is not used in direct address. In certain professional contexts in different regions, Mr. has specific meanings. The following are some examples. Medicine in the United Kingdom, the Republic of Ireland, and in some Commonwealth countries, many surgeons use the title Mr. rather than drive. Until the 19th century, earning a medical degree was not required to become a qualified surgeon. Hence the modern practice of reverting from doctor back to Mr. after successfully completing qualifying exams in surgery as a historical reference to the origins of surgery in the United Kingdom as non-medically qualified barber surgeons. Military usage. In the United States military, warrant officers and chief warrant officers are addressed as Mr. by senior commissioned officers. In the United States Navy and United States Coast Guard, it is proper to use Me 988 STIR to refer to commissioned officers below the rank of lieutenant, commander, or to zero subordinate commissioned officers, though the use of Mr. implies familiarity compared to the use of rank title for an unknown officer. Enlisted men are not permitted to address an officer with Mr. In the British Armed Forces, a warrant officer is addressed as Sir by other ranks, and non-commissioned officers, commissioned officers, particularly of junior rank, should address a warrant officer using his surname and the prefix Mr. For example, Mr. Smith. Although often the rank or appointment is used, for example, Sergeant Major, Regiment 8 Tal Sergeant Major, or RSM, 8am. In the British Armed Forces, a subaltern is often referred to by his surname and the prefix Mr. by both other ranks and more senior commissioned officers. E.g., 99 report to Mr. Smith-Jones at once, rather than report to Second Lieutenant Smith-Jones at once. Judges in the courts of England and Wales, judges of the High Court, are called, for example, Mr. Justice Crane. Where a forename is necessary to avoid ambiguity, it is always used. For example, Mr. Justice Robert Goff to distinguish from a predecessor Mr. Justice Goff. The female equivalent is Mrs. Justice Hallett, not Madam Justice Hallett. When more than one judge is sitting and one needs to be specific, one would refer to my Lord, Mr. Justice Crane. High Court judges are entitled to be styled with the prefix "the Honourable" while holding office, e.g., the Honourable Mr. Justice Robert Gott. In writing, such as in the law reports, the titles Mr. Justice or Mrs. Justice are both abbreviated to a J placed after the name. For example, Crane J would be substituted for Mr. Justice Crane. Female judges are still properly addressed "my Lord", however, "my Lady" is more modernly acceptable. The Chief Justice of the United States may be referred to as either Mr. Chief Justice or Chief Justice. For example, Mr. Chief Justice Roberts or Chief Justice Roberts. Catholic clerics. Among Catholic clergy, Mr. is the correct title and form of address for seminarians and other students for the priesthood, and was once the proper title for all secular and parish priests, the use of the title Father being reserved to religious clergy only. The use of the title Father for parish clergy became customary around the 1820s. A diocesan seminarian is correctly addressed as Mr., and once ordained a transitional deacon is addressed in formal correspondence as the Reverend Mr. In clerical religious institutes, Mr. is the title given to scholastics. For instance, in the Jesuits, a man preparing for priesthood who has completed the novitiate but who is not yet ordained is properly Mr. John Smith, S.J., and is addressed verbally as Mr. Smith. This is to distinguish him from Jesuit brothers and priests. Orders founded before the 16th century do not, as a rule, follow this practice. A Franciscan or Dominican, for instance, becomes a friar after novitiate and so is properly titled brother or, if a cleric, father. Permanent deacons in the United States are styled as deacon or the Reverend Deacon, followed by the first and last names. It is also customary in some places, especially in the Eastern Catholic churches, to address deacons while speaking, like presbyters, as Father or Father Deacon. Other usages. Mr. can also be used in combination with another word to refer to someone who is regarded as the personification of, or master of, a particular field or subject, especially in the fields of popular entertainment and sports, as Gordie Howe is referred to as Mr. Hockey, or Reggie Jackson is known as Mr. October. In Italian football, deference to a coach is shown by players, staff and fans referring to him as Il Mister, or directly Mr. This is traditionally attributed to the conversion of the local game of calcio to English Rules Association football by British sailors, who would have been the first coaches.